I'm legitimately very excited for this. When I was in middle school, a girl tried to convince me for like a week that Tupac was still alive. But here, with a much more compelling case about a similar story, with his talk, Howard Hughes' Fake Death and Hidden Decades, please welcome to the stage retired Major General Mark Musick.
History's not always what you've been told. Howard Hughes, richest man in America, born in 1905, accomplished many aviation feats, designed aircraft, made dozens of movies. Later life, very reclusive, described as a long-haired, long-fingernailed, drug-addicted, bedridden, mentally incompetent man. He was moved around outside the United States, last 5 years of his life, location to location, dying April 5th, 1976. Got in the ground in 48 hours after he died, 4-minute service. Why the rush? What's the hurry here? Unless the man that was buried was not Howard Hughes. I met a lady named Eva McClelland in 2002. I knew her husband had just died, and she said, I have something I want to tell you, Mark. She said, I was married to Howard Hughes. Now this is lunacy, this is laughable. I said, Eva, Howard Hughes died 25 years ago. She said, that's what they want you to think. Eva McClelland was raised in Alabama, married a career Army man, traveled around the world, ended up, after her divorce, in Panama, Howard Air Force Base, Panama. In November 1969, she meets this tall, handsome man. Says his name is Werner Nicely. She likes him. Now, the only strange thing is Werner would just disappear, sometimes for months at a time. He's gone. But he's always got aides around him, always doing business. They like each other. They're married. May 1970. It takes her 2 years to figure out, I'm married to Howard Hughes on this other identity. And then he confirms it with her. Now, I started researching her story because nothing ever changed in it. No details ever changed, nothing. She gave me all medical records, military records, everything that backed it up. It took me 4 years to believe she's just telling me what she lived. I then started researching Howard Hughes. Found out the later life of Howard Hughes, there's two men. You have the long-haired, long-fingernailed, drug-addicted, bedridden guy, but you also have a commanding, charming, healthy Howard Hughes who flies airplanes, sells businesses, meets with governors, and so forth. So did Howard take this identity? Get a stand-in who died in 1976? Who's Werner Nicely? The identity he was using. Werner Nicely was born in 1921, grew up in Ohio, went in the military during World War II, primarily in the Pacific. Left the Air Force in 1955, goes to work for the CIA in Panama, Howard Air Force Base in Panama, doing counter-drug missions in South America. Disappears. His family's told me he just disappeared in the late 60s. Don't know where he is. But we do know Werner Nicely, according to his military records, was 5'11", about my height. Eva's Werner Nicely, that she was married to, was 6'4", confirmed by multiple people, at the same height as Howard Hughes. Let's go back now to Eva's story. They left Panama. They went to Arizona for a couple years, then they went to Alabama. They're in Alabama now. Eva knows she's married to Howard Hughes. They're listening to the radio. Howard Hughes dies, April 5th, 1976. Howard Hughes dies. Eva says to Howard, the public's going to realize something's really wrong here because they're trying to get the body in the ground too quickly. Howard says to Eva, you really know who your friends are when you fake your death and you see who shows up at the service. At the service were 24 people. 23 were cousins, most of whom Howard never had met. Last guy was CIA. Howard and Eva now are hiding away in Alabama for the next 25 years. By the way, the people in Alabama tell me, if you want to hide, Alabama is the place to go hide. Eva's story now begins to make sense of all the nonsense of the life of Howard Hughes. It begins to make sense. Is this real? Can this be real? Yes, it's definitely real. This is a love story. This is a love story. They loved each other, and she took care of him for the rest of his life. History is not always what you've been told.
Okay.
I recommend you go study a little bit of the later life of Howard Hughes, and you conclude for yourself what the story is. Thank you very much.